Material culture. Fossils from 50,000 to 40,000 years ago. We see with modern Homo sapiens, we see blades, long blades, in the Lavalois technique that we'll get to in the next two chapters, where you take a stone, you prepare it, and by hitting it in a certain way, you knock off very long, thin flakes that work good as blades. Which, in the human toolkit, the modern Homo sapiens, we get increasingly more tools, different production techniques that come in. We also see a plethora of art in a symbolic world that develops on walls and caves and in the very tools, on the very tools that they are making. Also, we see burials of the dead and post-mortem modification of the dead, usually preparing them for the next world, it's thought. Material culture, the toolkit. Here we see a serrated blade, the edge there. We also see a knife. We see a burn here used for poking holes, for threads to come through and tie clothes together. We get fitted clothes at this time. This is a harpoon. I believe it's made from bone. This technology dates to about 100,000 years ago in Africa. Now this is earlier than things found in the rest of the world, which you would imagine, but up until recently we attribute great innovations with European societies. But in fact, Europe may have been the source of many European Upper Paleolithic innovations. Remember, the Upper Paleolithic begins about 40,000 years ago. And you can see the barbs to hold the point in the animal, and you can see the place to wrap the sinew to bring the harpoon back. Cultural periods in Europe in the Upper Paleolithic. Again, beginning about 40,000 years ago, we get the Château-Perignon. This is certain types of tools that have certain types of manufacturing techniques. By 27,000 years ago, new techniques are added. The Erignation comes in. 21,000 years ago, the Gravettian. This is when the atlatl, or spear thrower, was brought in. And then 17,000 years ago, the Magdalenian and Soltrian era. This is when we get the bow and arrow. All these don't replace the industries before, or the production techniques before, but they add to them. Here we see an example of pressure flaking. We know that stone tools are made by taking one stone and hitting another stone in such a way that you flake off pieces of stone and shape an axe or some kind of a tool. Pressure flaking, and that's with two rocks. Pressure flaking takes an antler or some kind of soft material, puts it right into the side of the stone here, and then pressure flakes off little pieces to be much more detailed in design. This is an amazing work of art, but also this is a massive innovation on tools and how to maximize tool use with minimal stone loss. More examples. This area right here, this flute, this is for an attachment of a shafting of a handle, a spear handle, a knife handle of some sort. There's an atlatl. It's a spear thrower. You can see how it works here. It adds length to the thrower's arm, gives them at least 3 times the distance with the same amount of accuracy and force when it hits the target. So you have long distance hunting at this point. Neanderthals had heavier spears. It's thought that they actually had to rush up to the animal and jab that animal. That's several people at the same time to bring the animal down. Very dangerous. Now you have long distance hunting from 20, 30 feet away. you can have 3 or 4 hunters throw these spears and kill that animal and then come in and butcher it afterwards. Also, in material culture, here at the top, we see a spear straightener. That's what this hole in the center is. And look at how decorated it is. This is an example of what modern Homo sapiens are beginning to do. Symbolism and art everywhere. Now, these are horses. So maybe this spear thrower was imbued to straighten the spear to be more direct when hitting horses. Horses weren't ridden then, as far as we know, but they were part of the diet. This is the Venus of Willendorf down here. I point that out because from about the mid 20,000 years ago till today, these Venus figurines have been seen. They're associated with fertility. They all have exaggerated bosoms and buttocks. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But you can see the artwork that's now coming in. A plethora of artwork. Here's a necklace found in France, 35,000 years old. You can see the work done on the beads right here. It looks like it could be even a horse's head. Paleolithic art. Now this is all from Europe, even though art is in the rest of the world as well at this time. This is what we've studied the most and we have the most record of. And again, here we have the Venus of La Salle, Venus of La Salle. Another Venus figurine. Like I said, these are very plentiful through these millennia. Here, this Venus figurine is about a 4-inch relief carved in limestone. It's the Venus of La Salle. Here we have a bison horn with 13 slashes in it with the right hand, and with the left hand on her womb. This is thought to signify the connection between a woman's cycles and the earth's cycles, the moon's cycles. That a woman's body going through the 28 days to menstruation that allows a woman to give birth, the ability of a woman to feed life from her own body is correlated with the planet creating life and feeding life from her body. So that is again, that's a speculation, but it really shows the kind of connection that these people had with the stars. They certainly used the stars to move around. They certainly understood the earth and the processes on the earth, and they were certainly symbolizing them. Here is a mammoth engraved on a large fragment of mammoth ivory found at the time of the excavations of the rock shelter of the Magdalenian about 17,000 years ago. This is from Australia, Queensland, Australia. You see the same type of art, but different symbols, different animals, different ideas of what's going on around them, because they lived in a place with different animals, different environment, different view of the universe even. So we see that humans are doing the same thing around the planet, just in very diverse ways. That every human society uses language to connect, to communicate, and to form cooperation in economics. And economics would be the technology, the things that we need to survive, the luxuries that we have to make our lives easier. And then to stay together, to create alliances and unity and bonds. We have kinship, family, and marriage. To create as sustainable and secure societies as possible, because we are connected to each other. Then we have art and mythology. And here's an example of art. It's a symbolic representation of the world, the inner turned outer. In mythology, it is stories about the human condition told within the cultural idiom of the people telling that story. So it has historical events in those stories. It has famous people in those stories. It has what's going on with the people. And it connects all of that through time to the mystery that is our existence. As of 6,000-7,000 years ago, that mystery becomes named. And so we have a name for a god. As the gods go from polytheistic, well, first, there wasn't really people. Sometimes there was, but mostly there were energies. And then people, individual gods, female gods, male gods, began to be a way to do things. And then eventually, as patriarchy took over the planet, a male god. Cave art. But the point is, every human society uses language to create economy. We use kinship, family, and marriage to stay together, and we produce art and mythology. We do it in extremely diverse ways, but this is the basis of our adaptation. It is the basis of the nervous system coming together with other nervous systems in a society to create a commonality. Now, across the globe, we have that commonality. We just do it in such diverse ways, and we've been fighting over who could hoard the most resources and be the king of the hill for the longest, for a very long time, 5,000-6,000 years. It's time that we connect as a global family, a human population, accept our diversity as our evolutionary adaptation, and when we do that, we as humans will thrive on this planet. Cave art. Majority comes from southwest France and northern Spain, mostly because that's where we've researched it the most. Grotto Chauvet has placed the cave paintings during the Aeronation period, more than 30,000 years ago. It's thought that people have been going in there between 28 and 33,000 years ago. So for those 5,000 years, through generations, the people in that area would go into these caves for ceremony and ritual. They did not live there, however. Images include stylized dots, human handprints, and animal representation. The handprints are, it is thought that the people held the paint in their mouth, the oxidized minerals that would have been paint, and held their hand to the wall and spit the paint around their hand to leave a shadow of their hand. At Chateau Chauvet, at Grotto Chauvet, there is somebody who had a broken little finger. And you can see that hand, because of the finger, all through this cave. So you can follow this one individual or artist throughout the cave. Here's a short clip on Cave of Forgotten Dreams. You can also see this on Netflix or YouTube. It's called The Cave of Forgotten Dreams. You see the felines? The depth, the rhino back here, the felines up here. It was not uncommon for them to use curves in the rock to make forms of the animal. Here we have a rhinoceros, an anime, actually moving his head up and down. Again, the distance with the horse back here, and these out here. Here's a bison. This is from La Salle. This is backed in Chauvet. 4 horses. One of the later artistic representations, much more recent than this rhino beneath it. And as I said, for 5,000 years of generations, people went into this cave. Chauvet, when it was examined, after being found and locked off, there was a ramp put in it. You can't walk on the floor of it because it has footprints, patina, footprints of both humans and bear. It has bones and things in it. So we want to leave it as preserved as possible.